speaking to us from Cairo, Egypt. Also still with us, Professor Horace Campbell, Professor of African American Studies at Syracuse University. Professor Campbell, I wanted to read to you from the Guardian newspaper. This is a pseudonym, Mohammed min Libya, who wrote this. But he said, as the calls for foreign intervention grow, I'd like to send a message to Western leaders, Obama, Cameron, Sarkozy. This is a priceless opportunity that has fallen into your laps. It's a chance for you to improve your image in the eyes of Arabs and Muslims. Don't mess it up. All your previous programs to bring the East and the West closer have failed, and some of them have made things even worse. Don't start something you cannot finish. Don't turn a people's pure revolution into some curse that will befall everyone. Don't waste the blood that my friend Ahmed spilt for me, he writes. He is speaking against intervention, Professor Campbell.
I think that is a sentiment that we've seen very clearly from sectors of those who are hungry for freedom in Libya, because any kind of intervention by the United States and NATO forces would send a signal to anti-imperialist forces that the revolution in Libya is being instigated by the West, and would throw sentiments in favor of Gaddafi at this moment when he's carrying out massacres against the people. In fact, I would think that the opportunistic and cynical elements in the military establishment in the United States and Britain in particular are calculating that keeping Gaddafi in power longer would be to the benefit of the West, because it would destabilize the revolutionary forces in both Egypt and in Tunisia. And I would think that the concern that is being expressed by Lieberman, McCain, and Hillary Clinton is not for the revolution in Libya, but is a concern for oil and for the destabilization of the Egyptian revolution because of the long-term implications of this revolution for Africa and the Middle East.
What about, Professor Campbell, the fact that it is usually referred to as rebellions, uprisings, revolutions that are taking place in the Arab world?
Yes, and one of the major challenges is for the people who call themselves progressives to be very careful in their language about this so-called revolution in the Arab world. Libya is on the African continent, long historic ties to Africa. Tunisia is on the African continent. Egypt stands at the headwaters of the Nile River that comes out of Central Africa. All of these states work very hard to be citizens and members of the African community. We only need to look at the African Cup of Nation Cups and to see the role that Tunisia and Egypt plays in African soccer. So these are African societies. In these African societies, they have citizens who are of Arab extraction, and many of these people call themselves Arabs. So what we can say is that the revolution in North Africa links the Arab revolution of Arabia and North Africa. This intersection of Arab and Africa has been positive in the past during the period of Nasser, when Nasser was anti-imperialist. What we have to be very careful about in this period is those who call themselves Arab carry on the arrogance and chauvinism and racism of Western Europeans who look down on Africans. And it is in a revolutionary process that revolutionaries themselves have to have a higher standard of ethics, morality, and racial and gender consciousness so that they do not reproduce the hierarchy and racism that looks down on Africans who are called black Africans, because Tunisians, Libyans, and Egyptians are also Africans.
Professor Campbell, the issue of Saudi Arabia. We are hearing protests in Yemen, in Oman, in Bahrain, in Jordan. Saudi Arabia, we have heard there have been some strikes, but what about how Saudi Arabia fits into this?
This is the real clincher for the revolutionary process on the way. I've been following the writings of Robert Fisk, And Robert Fisk has said that the real challenge will be the extent to which the revolutionary process gets underway in Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia, like Egypt under Mubarak, like Gaddafi's police state, like Ben Ali's police state, these are police states where the political leaders have billions of dollars to repress the people, where the political leaders use the resources of the state to recycle for Western armaments companies. And the leaders of Saudi Arabia are very conservative, oppressing not only the people, but particularly the women of Saudi Arabia. So there are large and huge pent-up sentiments and hunger for freedom within Saudi Arabia. It is precisely because the Western strategic thinkers understand the potential for revolution in Saudi Arabia, along with all over the Arabian Peninsula, while it is urgent for them to intervene in North Africa. Because from the time of Cleopatra, right down to the Nazis in Germany, the occupation of Libya, right next to Egypt, was strategically important for access to North Africa and Arabia. So the strategic thinkers in Washington, in London, in Paris, and Brussels are considering that with the impending isolation of Israel, with revolutionary processes all over Arabia and North Africa, it is very important for the West to have a foothold. It is in this very moment they need ways to divert the working peoples of North America and Western Europe from the crisis of capitalism. As we've seen in Wisconsin, the workers in Wisconsin gained confidence, gained support, gained courage from the peoples of Egypt. We've seen signs where the people say they're standing up for their rights. In moments like these, when the governor of Wisconsin is cutting back on expenditure on health, on education for the poor, and the Pentagon is spending over $1 trillion in its budget, it is times like these that the conservative forces need to whip up a new militarism in the United States of America to divert attention from the struggles of the working peoples, from students, from women, from youth, who are against the capitalist system as it exists. We are in the midst of the most intense capitalist crisis since 1930s. This struggle internationally is a struggle against capitalism.
Professor Campbell, I want to thank you very much for being with us. A professor of African American and political science at Syracuse University, African American Studies and Political Science at Syracuse. He's written extensively about African politics.